Hello, welcome to the weekly outlook in the DeFi Dojo. Today is September 8th, and we're going to discuss the markets charts, what to expect in the week ahead. This is kind of going to be like a monthly kind of outlook because I don't really see the point in trying to do things week to week in crypto and currently in equities either. I think this month is going to be very shaky, very rocky, especially for crypto. Looking at total market cap here, this is kind of what I think can happen. If we reclaim this 236 at the 2 trillion mark, basically again, then maybe that's invalidated. But right now we're closing a candle below this obvious support here, where no previous candles closed below. And then a few weeks ago we got that close below, and this week we got the continuation. You can also see the EMAs are now firmly bearish. That's a bearish engulfing candle as well. So last week's red candle was no surprise. I think that we could get a little, minor bounces here and there. At any point in time, they could always go back to, the 8 EMA on the weekly, and then reject again. But until we get back up over these EMAs, I can't be in this market. And that's basically what I decided to do. I sold last week, and so far I'm pretty happy with that decision. Looking at Bitcoin specifically, we've kind of closed below where this flag that I've got drawn out is, and maybe we're kind of trying to come up to retest that to start the week. Maybe we do make a move all the way back up to the 8 EMA. I mean, that's at 58k, so that's how crazy it can get. But again, macro speaking, longer term speaking, I don't want to be in a market that's bearish, and right now Bitcoin's bearish. Those EMAs are clearly bearish, and we clearly rejected it last week and made a huge move down. And that's what I expect to see after they go bearish. That's a pretty normal thing to have happen. Now we have 51k on the spot chart as our first real main macro support. You can see we had a little consolidation back here in that zone, so maybe it finds its bearings and holds there and wants to pop back up. For all I know, that could happen. If it doesn't and it fails, then we're likely coming to the bottom of the channel, and that could be as low as like 47 to 48k in that region there. But then there's this like cluster back here, and that's usually where supports form, or where things like to wick to. So if you kind of just bring that little cluster over, you can see that could be as low as 40k. I mean, that's pretty crazy, but it's possible, So that is just what we might have in store for us, and I don't think that dips are for buying unless we get to these like critical levels down here where it's actually worth taking a stab at it. So I have limit orders in for Bitcoin in the like 42 to 45k ranges, and for Ethereum, we're hitting this support here on the spot chart, right? And so I wanted to show you this first. If we look at the CME chart, it's a little different. There's still room down to that trend into this like 0.52k mark. If you notice, we closed the candle below the 382 for the first time, so that's not great either. So I mean, there's definitely room below. I don't know how long it'll take. I can't say like this week's definitely going to go down because we are well below the EMA. So, we very likely could get a bounce of some sort, and they'll make it look as bullish as possible. Don't get trapped in those situations trying to like leverage long something after a big, huge move up in this bear market. You don't want to do things like that. You're much better off trying to short that spike. Just like in a bull market, you'd want to long the drop. So you can do some, scalping in here and there. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing. I don't know if I'm going to focus on crypto at all. I'm more interested in equities. For me, it's easier to read. So I would much rather play around with like QQQ options and SPY options personally. If we go look over at equities, we'll start with the dollar. This 0.5 is super strong support. You can see that's what we've been holding since January of 23. So it's been holding that level for a really long time. And I don't know if it's going to break it now or later. I do think it will eventually get down to this golden pocket. But until it breaks below, I'm assuming a bounce. And so if this is going to start heading higher again, that could make equities and crypto markets suffer further. If we look at the S&P, That's a really big bearish candle. My hunch last week was correct. I don't know if you read my summary in the channel, but I did have a hunch that we would have a bearish week, and we got like the biggest red candle of the year. So that's pretty interesting. So we have that 21 weekly EMA support there that's currently opening on top of. But if we look at the daily, you can see that we just crossed bearish. So we absolutely can continue lower. Maybe we want to retest the pivot 1.414, 8 EMA kind of coming down. Maybe we want to come back up and test that and then continue lower. You know, who knows? This week's going to be difficult. I might be very, very picky with what I trade this week. It wasn't as easy as, taking shorts on that retest of the EMAs coming down like it was last week. So now we're kind of in a little bit of a no man's land. But we are, pointing down. I think we could see the bottom of this channel eventually around 52.73 for ES. And for NQ, similar situation. Coming down to the bottom of the channel, we got that 18,000 support right where that channel intersects it. So that could be where we see NASDAQ shortly. Looking at the NASDAQ on the weekly, big bearish candle, started above EMAs, finished below both of them, and fibs and pivots, like just blasted through it like it's butter. So I don't really have anything good to say about any market this week. I think they all look pretty bad, and I think September could continue to be bad, and when September ends, maybe we'll reevaluate and have some nice things to buy. But for now, I'm scalping things short when I see opportunities and just being patient. So this isn't going to be a very long weekly outlook because everything's kind of showing me the same thing. And if we look at USDT dominance, this is another indicator. Like, we just closed over the 0.5. That's not great. We closed over it last week barely, and then this week we continued. So we have the weekly pivot at 6.65%. Be curious to see what the crypto market does if we touch that again. And if we get over it, then you know the drill. We get into the golden pocket, possible 786 touches, and then we can reevaluate. The momentum for these oscillators down here is fully bullish now. So this can absolutely continue higher. Trying to call things day to day, week to week right now is definitely difficult. I'm not going to try to do that. Overall, we're bearish in crypto. Overall, equities are still technically bullish because the EMAs are bullish, but we're back in between them, and we could monkey around in between here for a little while potentially before we maybe dip down and touch the trends. So just take it easy. I don't see any real need to overtrade this week. I'd like to preserve capital for later on when equities give good opportunities. I'd like to be able to put things back into there. I've taken profits several times now. While we're in this take profit zone, we could still definitely see this 1.618 eventually. How it gets there is the question. When we finally break those highs here, then yeah, I'll scalp some longs up to the top and then take more profits once we get up there on my long-term port. So that's basically my plan. It's nothing too complicated, and I don't really want to overcomplicate it if I don't have to. So if you have any chart requests, you can go ahead and ask. I'm going to go ahead and tell you whatever it is in crypto, it's likely bearish. So I don't think there's anything bullish in crypto right now. And if you have something, please point it out to me. I'd love to see it. Equities, there's still some opportunities in there. The Dow Jones is likely going to be the better bet as far as any sort of longing short term. Things are moving from growth to value, and that's kind of typical when you get into a top of some sort. That's typically what happens until people completely start exiting. I think we could still see sideways slightly up overall on equities leading into the elections, which is typically what happens. And then after that, I think we could start seeing potentially a bear market forming. All right. Any questions? Going once, going twice. I'm sorry I don't have better news. Maybe one day soon we'll have better news. But in the meantime, we can make money in the market scalping shorts when those opportunities arise, and that's what I plan on doing. All right. If that's all, I will go ahead and end this. Oh, we got some typers. Okay. Maybe they're just saying thank you. We'll see. Scalping what time frame? So, like, I particularly like scalping QQQ options in the morning from 9:30 to 11. And I'll pick my direction usually 10 minutes before market opens. And if I can find a contract on a dip on like an early open spike that's hitting a level that I like, then I'll take my put option there. And then if I get my direction in the first hour and a half, I take my profits and I call it a day. If I don't, I take my loss and I call it a day. I don't really typically trade or scalp options past 11 a.m. because after that it's just a bunch of noise and you don't really get any real indication on the next day until the last like 30 minutes of market. And then I'll look at the last 30 minutes of market and decide if that level that I like is something I want to try to carry over to the next day, right? So it's not easy to day trade that. It's not at all, and I don't use a large percentage of my portfolio when I do it unless I have like a lot of confidence. And this week I don't really, because I think we're kind of in the middle of an area that could go either way. So I don't really want to try to, if I do anything at all, it's going to be minor until we get to some better levels. For instance, let's look at QQQ just to kind of give you an example. Like also Nvidia is something I wanted to share and I almost forgot. So this is like a really large wedge that this is in. This is its like all-time chart, right? And so we're breaking and closing below that after making a lower high. This is very divergent here. This is higher, this is lower, this is lower, this is higher. So Nvidia is showing me that it could potentially fall significantly, and if we just look at the recent trend, just getting back to the 236 here is all the way down at $76. So this would be a potentially amazing short swing. But looking at the daily, we closed well below the 8 EMAs. We have not actually retested them yet, and so I might be looking, and it might take a little while for a retest back up to that line where the 8 EMA might come meet it. And that's where I would like to take my potential swing short on Nvidia. But as you can see, we're way below these EMAs, and trying to take it here is dangerous because you can always get that move back up. And that's quite a substantial move back to the 8 EMA. I mean, it's 8%. And if you're playing an option on that, you're wrecked. So you got to be careful with Nvidia. Now, if we look at something like QQQ, let's see, QQQ, where are you? Over here. It's also way below, right? So like the main target here on just this recent retracement would be like the golden pocket and this blue trend line that I got. So let's say we open the market tomorrow right on that 618. It'd be really dumb to try to short that, right? Because that's the support, and we're likely going to get a bounce back up. Now, when these 8 EMAs start rolling back down and I get some sort of retest of them, then maybe I'll think about it. But tomorrow we could just freaking open up way down here. Who knows? And then I'm kind of like, I still don't want to try to short it, even though it's like super bearish. And that's when you kind of, you could get like a day where it's just massively terrible. And you just didn't get the entry to jump on the train, right? And then trying to jump on it while it's way down here is super risky. So those are days I just don't trade, So like I said, depending on what we get will determine whether or not I even try it. And sometimes it's better to just wait a day and see what happens. So I hope that helps. It's not a static environment ever to try to say like if A then B. Like it's never that way. It's always like fibs, EMAs, and then intuition and experience that have to all kind of gel together at the same time. If you want things to move, let me know what I pick. It will go the other way. Yeah, me too, man. Same with my football experience, picking teams and players and fantasy football, and gosh, it's like I'm terrible at that game. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Obviously, we'll continue posting charts and updates throughout the week in the Discord. If you'd like to join that, the links are in the description below, and come hang out with us. We have a good time. All right, have a good night. Bye.